we get started on our series on forgiveness, it really felt that I wanted to start off this with opening up some things about my life that there are people out there who know about. I have talked about it. And there are a lot of people out there who don't know. And when I share these things, I'm not doing so in a manner of where I'm wanting anyone to be sorry for me, I guess, or feel sad for me. They are events that have happened in my past. They're events that I have struggled with over the years. I will tell you there are still times that I struggle with them. But the one particular event that I want to open up with really has been detrimental in my life in the aspect of forgiveness. Many years, when I share this event for many years, I have been unable to embrace the understanding of forgiveness in what happened. And because of that, I have left a path of destruction in my life of people who cared about me, people who loved me, and people who dared walk with me because I was unable to forgive this particular event. Anger, resentment, misunderstanding, stubbornness, all of these things kept me a prisoner of that event because of the lack of forgiveness. And those are things that we're going to talk about in this series on what forgiveness does. Who does forgiveness free? What is forgiveness? Why should we forgive? What does forgiveness look like? And what is the misunderstanding of forgiveness? Like I said, I wanted to start. I was growing up in Georgia, and my father was a pastor, and we were very heavily involved in the church there, of course, being that I was a pastor's kid. And in this, I'm not going to share names due to the fact that no one needs to know. There's a few people in my life who need to know, who do know the people involved in this. But being that there are families, friends, and things like that that know the individuals involved with this, but did not know that this happened, there's no need for me to share no need for me to share names. But I don't remember the age. When I look back, I figure I was probably 8, 9, 10, somewhere around in there. Normal boy, I loved the outdoors, loved to play cowboys and Indians. My favorite thing was Robin Hood. I've always loved the story of Robin Hood, and I would go out and play Robin Hood. And we lived in this house that had a tree house in the back, and this tree house was fantastic. It became my refuge. It had been built by a carpenter, so it wasn't your normal, just, when I was a kid, the normal tree houses, some of us guys get together, find some old wood, and nail them up to some trees and make a playhouse or a tree house. This one was actually had a front porch. It had storm windows. It had an actual door. I mean, it was nice, and it was my fort. It was my military base. It was my place where Robin Hood and his merry men could run to, and it was my solace. There were times I'd go in there just as a kid and just stay there. We had this young man from our church that would come on a regular basis. Well, not on a regular basis, but I remember a few times that he started coming to mow our grass. Family paid him to mow the grass in our yard, and he did that. And this guy was a lot older. He was in his late teens, and he was a rebel. That's the best way I can describe it. And as a young kid, I thought he was cool. He never paid much attention to me. I was too young, but I looked up to him, and he was someone who I was like, this guy, he shirks responsibility. He has a bad attitude. He talks back. I mean, even though I knew all those things were wrong, I watched him, and I thought that was pretty cool that this guy did that, and he was always living on the edge. And as he began to mow our yard, I tried to get his attention, and I wanted, he was kind of like a hero, I guess you could say. I remember one day he asked me, he's like, hey, I want to see your treehouse. And my world just boom, like, did this just happen? I mean, this guy wants to see my treehouse. I mean, this is awesome. And I was excited. I was exuberant, and I was so proud. And like, this guy really is paying attention to me. Took him up into the treehouse and began to show him around. And I remember him locking the door that had a lock on it. And I knew that we're never supposed to lock the door. My mom always said, don't ever lock the door. Not sure why. And I remember telling him, like, we can't lock the door. My mom did. He said something to the effect of, it's okay. That would be the very first time of several times that I would be molested by this man. To this day, I can tell you, I can still vividly remember everything that happened. I can remember the smells. I can remember the way I felt. I can remember everything. This happened several more times. I remember the first time it happened, my mother must have realized that, hey, the yard wasn't being cut, and where is Nathan, and where is this young man who's supposed to be mowing the yard? I remember my mom yelling out, asking from the back porch where I was, Nathan. I remember all of a sudden this individual got scared and everything stopped, and he told me not to tell anybody, just as normal as it usually happens, and don't tell anyone. We'll talk about it later. And I just remember running out of the treehouse. I remember running up to my house, and because we had quite a big property, and I remember looking through the screen door and saying, yes, Mom, did you need me? I remember my mom asking, what's going on? Why were you, where were you? Why were you in the treehouse? Asking questions. And I remember wanting so bad to tell her and not knowing how to tell her, because then I began to feel guilty. And I began to feel like I had done something wrong, not knowing why, and not knowing why I was feeling these things. I was too young to understand. And I remember looking at my mom and telling her that, nothing, Mom, nothing was going on. He just wanted to see the treehouse. And I remember my mom scolding me because wasn't supposed to be in the treehouse with the door closed. I don't remember that part of it. I remember because she didn't know. She wasn't aware of what was going on. And like I said, for several more times, it happened. For years, forgiveness was not part of my vocabulary. For years, I held this anger and this rage that began to come out of me because of what this individual had done. And I began to not believe in love. I said I did, and I began to believe there began to be two Nathans. There used to be the one who had that fake facade and that fake front, because that's the Nathan that everyone expected. And there was the little boy Nathan inside. No matter how I grew, no matter how old I got, there was that little boy inside that was crushed. I'm actually going to split this up into two different videos due to the fact of the time. I don't expect anyone to sit here and watch, this all at one time. So I'm going to pick it up here. You'll see it labeled as, I'm going to label this as forgiveness, the introduction, part 1, and then part 2. So look for part 2 here after part 1.